Hello everybody, San here, engineer, MBA, and investor. And in today's video, I want to talk about Intellia firing back at the court's ruling on February 28, 2022, which basically favored the Broad Institute and the team in the East Coast, which puts Intellia, CRISPR Therapeutics, and many other players in jeopardy. I want to talk about all of that in this video. Now, before we do that, before we jump into today's video, you guys know that drill. Like this video, smash that like button, destroy that like button. YouTube algorithms, you guys know how they work. If you're not subscribed yet, please consider subscribing and let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this video. So Intellia, they released a statement yesterday evening, just before market close actually, on recent U.S. Patent and Trademark Office decision relating to CRISPR-Cas9 genome editing in eukaryotic cells, right? Eukaryotic cells, which basically mean human cells. Right, so they give a little bit of background, which I will not bore you guys with. We already went through the background, the history, a little bit of patents. There are other videos from other YouTubers as well going through that. But just know that there's a long history on this. In fact, this is spanning up for well over a few years, right? And in my opinion, just like I stated in yesterday's video, I think this will go on for a few more years unless there's a joint collaboration made, which we'll take a look as well in this statement. So I do want to cover some statements here from Intellia. So first of all, Intellia says it has an exclusive rights on CRISPR-Cas9, on human therapeutics, right? They also say that they have filed numerous patent applications covering CRISPR-Cas9, right? And none of Intellia owns patent applications are involved or impacted by the interference between CVC and the Broad, right? Which CVC is the West Coast, which University, Berkeley, and so on, and the Broad, obviously MIT, Harvard, and so on, which only pertain a subset of the in-licensed CVC CRISPR-Cas9 IP estate. So when you read this sentence, right? And on top of that, if you go down here and you read the other sentence here that says, Intellia does not expect the ruling to impact its ability to discover, develop, or commercialize future CRISPR-based medicine. If you just read these two sentences that I just highlighted, then you should come up with a conclusion that this should not affect Intellia, this should not affect CRISPR Therapeutics, this should not affect Caribou Biosciences, and so on. Right? But obviously it does have impact in some sense, right? Because you have basically two sides arguing that they discovered the technology on eukaryotic cells, which basically are human cells first, right? And obviously we haven't really dived deep into the whole patent trolls situation. I mean, this is not just in biotech, right? This is software. This is in all sorts of industries, especially in computer science, especially in software. You have like patent trolls, right? People that just basically hold on patents. And in biotech, I think there was one company that sort of was a patent troll and they were making money just basically by being a patent troll, right? So that's another issue, another topic that I'm not even going to dive deep into. I know the All In podcast from Chamath and J. Cal and Freeberg and so on, they actually covered this topic in yesterday's evening video, so you guys can check it out. They actually covered this ruling and they talked about patent trolling and so on. And I totally agree with it. I think patent troll should stop. I think it's just stopping innovation. But there's one point that Freeberg mentioned, actually, I think I should mention as well in this video, is that whenever you have like patent trolling and so on, what actually emerges from that industry is open source. Right, open source, right? And for people that are not aware about open source structures, especially people that are not involved in the computer science software side of things, open source basically means that it is developed and maintained by the community, right? So a great analogy is GitHub from the computer science world, from software development, where you basically have a software that's updated by the community, by the public. No one owns the software. You can literally download it. You can use it for commercial if you want to. There is nothing preventing you from using it in commercial, in your labs and so on, because it is open software. And the same topic was sort of brought up here by, again, the All In podcast, that I don't think we're there yet, but it's the idea of CRISPR has an open source. And I Googled that and I advise you guys to do that as well. There's a couple of things I saw with open source CRISPR that I think could be promising And honestly, if this does not get resolved, I truly believe this would be the way out for many biotech, genomics, CRISPR companies, right? Adopting open source technologies. Now, I'm not sure if we're there yet, biotech. I think it's way too early, but it is a topic we want to consider. And they did mention, they hold several patents. Again, this is across their corporate presentation. There's nothing really new about it, except this line, actually. This ruling affected 14 applications owned by CVC, which are now refused by the US PTO because of the ruling, right? So 14 applications. Again, we read those two sentences. This should not impact the companies to develop and to commercialize it. And in our world, in an investing world, that's basically what we're worried about. Will Intellia, will CRISPR Therapeutics, will Caribou be able to develop, commercialize these products? And clearly, by that statement, they can't. So I'm just going to go with what they said here. And they finished by saying that this is going to be an appeal, right? This is an appeal, and I mentioned that in yesterday's video. If you guys remember, I said an appeal will take another 2-3 years. It's just going to extend it. There's going to be another appeal. This is going to go for years, and by then, you'll have an FDA-approved drug potentially, and all of this will just be a minor topic that we should not even sweat over. But I did want to show you guys this last sentence here. Parties may reach a resolution outside of legal proceedings, right? And we know the Broad Institute release that we saw from yesterday's video, they mentioned that they are willing to join collaborate. In fact, they've stated that they were seeking for one for years. So I actually think this is just going to be, there's going to be a resolution. I really don't think it's going to be anytime soon, in my opinion, because I think there's a lot of fight to be had. Again, I mentioned this again from yesterday's video. I highly recommend you guys to watch it, but I'm just repeating myself at this point. But Walter Isaacson's book actually talks about how Jennifer Doudna and her team, they were thrown off, and they were always discussed by the idea that VCs, biotech investors, always favored the East Coast, right? MIT, Harvard, the Broad, and they are planning to change that, right? And this is why this battle has gone for years, and in my opinion, will go for another few years. But ultimately, like Christopher Tommy mentioned in yesterday's video, I think we have to think rationally. I think we have to think, what is the end goal here? What is the outcome? Who are we doing these therapies for? Shareholders, stakeholders involved. I think ultimately there should be a joint collaboration done, and that's why they're open. They finished that sentence there with that. Again, we don't know how these discussions go. We don't know how these private discussions go. There's too many players here involved that for us to even have a good picture as to what will happen. All we know, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the CEO of Intellia interview, there will be an appeal on this decision. It's going to go for another few years, in my opinion, and we'll see what happens by then. Curious to see what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching. Like this video if you found value. Subscribe if you've not. And let me know in the comments below what you guys think about Intellia firing back at the court's ruling. Thank you so much for watching.